All right, I'm calling it. I think Face ID stinks. And I want to explain why, particularly given that I was a proponent of it before I got my hands on it. So let's set a little bit of scene here. So first of all, iPhone 10 like so. You can see it's presently locked. That's my little son just there. A long time ago. Now, I got an iPhone X, would have been about 3 weeks ago now. Like, I've had it enough time to have a really good play with it. So I wanted to wait. Like, my initial feelings were kind of like, this doesn't feel quite what I had hoped it to be, but I thought I'll give it time. And I've also given it enough time that my wife has had hers for a while, my sister-in-law's had hers for a while. We've all spent time using this quite extensively. Now, before I sort of go on and talk about why it stinks and sort of show you some demos, I want to sort of scroll back a little bit because I wrote a blog post myself back just after Face ID launched, 14th of September 2017. And I talked about Face ID and the value of biometrics and security, and effectively my position, and it's still my position today as it was then, is that biometrics on mobile devices like this are a good thing insofar as they make the usability barrier quite low compared to, say, having a PIN, which you have to manually enter the whole time. And as such, it means a whole bunch of people who didn't want to have security on their phone before now do. Security is good when it doesn't get in your way, and this is what we're going to get to in a moment. Now, obviously, when Apple's gone iPhone 10, they've gone, hey, let's do this nice full screen thing, and if I open it up, everyone will sort of see what I mean by that. Nice full screen, no bezels, isn't that great? Of course, consequently, no home button. Now, this is where things get kind of interesting. And in my original blog post, I said, look, I'm really curious to see if, with the absence of the home button and consequently the necessity for Face ID, because you've now lost your touch sensor. So let's be clear about that. You know, obviously, the reason we're doing Face now is because there's not a button. I said in the original post, maybe it was in the post or the comments, but certainly somewhere on that page, I said, look, I am really keen to see if Face ID is there because it is a better means of biometric logon, or because there's just no home button anymore. You know, like, which one is it? Now, there are multiple different ways of measuring this, and I want to be clear to sort of separate the security side of things from the usability side of things. Apple has said, look, Face ID is significantly stronger than Touch ID simply because it's got more sensors, it's got more ability to detect certain things, it's better resilient to fraud. I assume it's harder to actually create gummy bear face versions of the gummy bear fingerprints, which have gotten through some biometrics that relied on fingerprints. So let's sort of agree with them on that in lieu of any evidence to the contrary. And just to be clear, we haven't seen good workable attacks against Face ID. There were those blokes from Vietnam who popped up and said, hey, look at this, we'll take a towel off a mask, and then you see the mask and the Face ID thing unlocks. And that was a really, really shady piece of work. I'm going to link to an article by Dan Gooden from Ars Technica that sort of pulls this apart and gets very evasive answers from these guys and leaves a whole bunch of questions unanswered. Like, one really important question is, how much access do you need to a face in order to create the mask? Because if the attack vector is, we've got to like literally get hold of your head and scan it and then like 3D print certain parts of a face, you know, like, this is no longer a threat vector for most people. We're going to be more worried about, could someone take a photo of you and then build a mask out of that? So they didn't answer really critical questions. And until they can, I think it's a bit of a look, it looked good in the press. Probably not a real problem though. So that's the security side. Let's leave that alone. Let's talk instead about the actual usability side, because this is what Apple is so often very big on, right? It's like, hey, it's Apple, everything is nice and friendly and usable. And that is enormously important, because if security is not usable, and to be clear, that the sort of the whole usability experience of Apple products is usually very good. But when it comes to security, if security is not usable, then people have a way of turning it off or circumventing it in other non-ideal ways. Now, so we're going to talk about security. I'm going to show you what happens under certain circumstances, or what are the things that I'm struggling with. Just to put it in context first, because I know I'm going to say something negative about Apple, and people say, well, you work for Microsoft, and that's why. I don't work for Microsoft. Go to my About page and see why. Plus, I have a lot of Apple stuff. this is exhibit A just here, exhibit B just there. I use an iPad really extensively, and I've had all of these devices for many, many years, or versions preceding them. I tend to buy the new Apple things when they come out. Even just yesterday, I bought these, the little AirPods, and they're fantastic. I love them. So, I'm very, very much embedded in the Apple ecosystem for all sorts of other reasons we can discuss another time. Let's start talking about the Face ID situation though. And I want to start with a problem which admittedly is going to challenge myself and my wife and my sister-in-law, who I just mentioned, more than most people. And the problem is this. So, we live in the Gold Coast in Australia. Now, Australia is a very sunny place. The Gold Coast in Australia is sort of like the sunniest of the sunny places. So the entire time we're getting around with sunglasses on. 300 days of sunshine a year here. Now, these sunglasses are polarized Ray-Ban sunglasses, a little P on there. I will normally wear these when I'm trying to be presentable. This is presentable for me. I also really extensively use these ones. And these ones are polarized Oakley sunglasses. And I use these often when I'm playing tennis or if I'm outdoors doing sports and things like that, because frankly, these ones slip around a little bit. Both polarized. We live on the water, so polarized is epic for actually being able to cut out reflection and stuff off water and see fish and things like that. So they're really good, but they make Face ID a nightmare. Now, I tested this just before I recorded this, and you'll probably find that they work pretty well whilst I'm actually inside and there's not too much glare. So if we do the thing like this, all right, that actually unlocked. All right, we've got the little unlock icon. That goes up. Very, very good. I'm going to clear all my things off there as well. Now, so that's something. What I find tends to go wrong is that as soon as I'm outside and there's glare, it just dies. And I don't know if it's just reflecting off the sunglasses or what it is. So that's those ones. Now, these ones will probably also be okay inside. If we try that again. All right, padlock has gone up. Open. All right, we're good. Now, so that is a bit unfortunate insofar as the one place where you don't tend to wear sunglasses is when you're inside and there's no glare, right? Like, I don't sit here looking at my screens wearing sunnies, as cool as that would look. I'm outside where there is a lot of glare and the thing fails miserably. And of course, as soon as it starts to fail, you start doing stuff like this. So I'll be outside and I'll be trying to unlock it and it's not working. So I start to kind of move my head around like this, like can I find an angle that actually gets it? And then I will literally do this. It's like, I wonder if I can take the sunnies off my head now. This is just to unlock the freaking phone. And very often what ends up happening is it ends up falling back and saying, well, actually we need the pin now because there's been too many failed biometrics tries. So that is a problem. All right, so I've come outside because I want to try and actually show you what this is like in the bright sunlight. But like, as you can see, it is super bright. So right off the bat, actually, you know what? I'm going to put my sunnies on in a moment because it's like literally hard to see otherwise. And I've got glare off the swimming pool and the glass and everything as well. Just before that, just to sort of make the point that it tends to work okay in bright sunlight so long as you don't have sunnies on. If I look at it there, it didn't work. All right, let's try it again. I'm leaving that in just to make the point. All right, look at it there. Maybe if I, okay, that time, yep, we're in, beautiful. Okay, so that's okay. And just note the position as well, because I'm going to do this with sunnies in a moment. If it's about there, okay, we're fine, we're unlocked, happy days. All right, level it up. And this is where it all starts to go wrong. So, start putting sunnies on so you can actually see what's going on. And if I have the phone there, that one actually worked. Isn't that amazing? All right, we'll try it again, because what seems to happen is that if you have this, like a slight different angle and the sun's just glaring off the wrong place, stuff doesn't work. All right, doesn't work. I'll do the flicky thing as well, just to go, sort of make it go, okay, now I've got the haptic feedback, and just to be clear, let's make sure that we can see that I'm not kind of putting it in really weird positions. That is not working. It's just not working at all. Let me just put something there on the screen that I can show. All right, I'll clear all those, you know, okay, it's still locked home screen. If I go sort of more kind of directly in front of my face, this seems to be what it really wants. And I go, oops, go there. Okay, we're good.
unlock that time, fine. Then if I, let's say, turn around this way and I give it a go, maybe around there, that one worked okay. This is like a lucky dip, right? You're just never quite sure what you're going to get. If I look up more towards the sun though, that one did work. And then we go sort of back down here in a lower position. We've got to lock the thing again first. First of all, it didn't turn on. Yep, and now it doesn't want to unlock. So the thing is, it's really hit and miss. Just, I know we're sort of exhausting all possibilities here just to see what happens. If I'm more back to the sun and I've got the sun behind me, and just so you can see where I'm holding that, that doesn't want to lock. Unlock rather. So those sunnies, and then again, and just to sort of go back in that same position, if I'm there and I'm not wearing sunnies, let's actually lock it again first, there. All right, so that's unlocked. It's okay without the sunnies. Now put the sunnies back on, the other sunnies, and I do that. Locked, doesn't want to unlock. If I put it up there, well, let's go there, there. Now that's a really straight line position, doesn't want to unlock. Let's try it again. If I go there and I take the sunnies off, see? That's what I was just showing in the other video, right? Where it's like, if I show my eyes, now it can do the, the thing and the attention, all that, it seems to work. So the thing is, it's just really hit and miss. And then to make it even worse, you put a hat on, because it's especially sunny outside, and hats make a lot of sense. And, well, I guess it's only going to be worse than what it was before. I just got haptic feedback straight in front of my face. It didn't want to turn on. Up there. Oh, we just made it there. I'm not sure how much it actually sort of senses the forward and how much a hat screws that up. Down there again. All right, I got that one to work. See, now I reckon that's pretty much the same position as what I did just before when it didn't want to work at all as well. So, go figure. All right, one more go. What do we do? A lucky dip. Let's turn around this way. There. Nah, that one doesn't want to unlock either. So, this is the point. Like, I'm just continuously playing the game of will the phone unlock or not. I just don't know when I'm outside, even when I'm inside. In other scenarios, which I'll come back to in the video, back upstairs, it's just a bit hit and miss. And frankly, it kind of sucks.
The other problem that I have with it is that it does require fairly direct line of sight to the camera. I didn't realize how many times I unlocked my old iPhone 7 Plus and my 6 Plus before that, and all the other biometric versions of iPhones I've had. I didn't realize how many times I unlocked it whilst doing something like this. Now, I'm looking at the phone, but it's not unlocking, it's still locked, because of course the camera can't see it. If I go up to an angle like that, so just to put that side on, looking at the phone, still not unlocked. I've got to do the thing again, there you go. And I've got to get quite a way around, and we'll just sort of see how far. Okay, there. So that's got to be like pretty much facing me. We can now see the padlock unlocked. It's got to be pretty much facing me straight on before it unlocks, which means that every single time, like you're walking down the street and you're actually trying to watch the traffic, make sure you watch the traffic if you're walking down the street with your phone, and you're not looking at the phone, the thing won't unlock. And you have to stop and look away from the traffic, which is bad, and look at your phone in order for the thing to unlock. So that's problematic. Now, the other thing is that every time you have it sitting flat on a desk, so this is sitting on the desk now, and if I tap on it, it won't unlock. And I literally have to put my head over the top of it. In fact, that still didn't unlock. It's still locked. Put my head over the top of it, and now okay. And this is a very unnatural way of working. So I didn't realize it until I had the phone, but there are so many times when I do unlock it in that position. Now compare that to something like my iPad Pro. This is a smaller one, the 10.5 inch. Now I can be sitting that there, so this is locked. Again, sun. I'll turn that guy back on. The whole thing's locked. I can easily have it sitting there on the desk, place my finger on it, and not only will it unlock, but I get that tactile feeling of having my finger on the home button. And this is another thing, and as much as it looks really nice in the demos, the Face ID, without having any sort of tactile feedback where you are actually explicitly performing some sort of action, it sucks. And I'll give you a few reasons for this. So, number one is that it false positives a lot, where it goes, oh, it looks like you're trying to unlock your phone. No, I wasn't trying to unlock my phone. I was just trying to look at what was on the home screen because I got some notifications and things like that. So that's part of a problem. And of course, if you do that too many times, well, then it will lock out and it will say, now you need a PIN. And you're falling back to sort of a pre-iPhone 5S, I think it was, where you just don't have a choice. It's like only PIN. There is not biometrics. So you implicitly fall back quite a lot. The other thing is that it's just sort of, maybe it's something in your human brain, which is like when you have that explicit action of saying, I want to unlock, I'm going to perform this action, which is to place my thumb on the Touch ID. That is a very sort of reaffirming action. It's like, I am telling you to unlock now. And yes, it almost always does unlock. The exception is like, you've been in the water, maybe been in the shower too long and your fingers are a bit pruny or something like that. So there's that. The other scenario where this thing is constantly failing for me is, and I want to make sure I caveat this, if I'm, say, picking the kids up from school and I'm sitting in the queue. So what happens is you drive up, you're sitting there in the car, and you'll sit there for very often like 10 minutes, and then the cars will start going one by one. You're sitting there in park, handbrake on, not driving, air conditioning on, car running. The thing I normally have mounted in the, depending on which car I'm in, either in the center console or up there at the bottom of the A-pillar. And it's not facing me directly. And the problem again is that you want to unlock the thing, but you can't quite get to it. So you end up sitting in the car like this and you're trying to move your head around to get in an angle where the thing will actually unlock. And again, it's this sort of scenario of this works great if it's facing directly at your face. But anytime it's positioned out of the way, you've got a real problem. Okay, one more example, because I know I mentioned the car when I was up in the study. And in fact, I recorded the video, which was sort of the first bit where I'm in the office up there. And then I went out to pick the kids up. And I realized as I was getting the kids, like this is just the perfect scenario to explain why I'm using the phone in the car and where the problem is. So I picked the kids up. I had to go to a different location, somewhere I don't normally go. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to use the GPS. So I get in the car, the phone's off. I put the phone rather, in the cradle in the car, and then I go to turn it on, and, well, I'll show you what happens. So that is where I would normally mount the phone. That's just sort of the best spot to fit in the car here. Now, the problem is that, as you can see, that basically looks straight back. And then I'm sitting over here looking kind of at instruments and things like that. So I get in, as I said in the other video, in, park, handbrake on, all the usual stuff, and we'll see what happens. So I go over here, let's turn the phone on by tapping it, and let's try and unlock it. And it won't unlock, because of course the problem is the phone is looking straight ahead over here, and then I'm over here, and it's basically like looking into the back seat, which doesn't do a whole lot of good for me. So we'll try it again, and I just want to make sure that I've got this phone like way over there, so that I'm not sort of putting it in between this phone and me. We'll try this again. Unlock, can't unlock. Let's just clear all those. All right, what if I go over here? No, so you might have just seen in the corner over here, corner over there, the padlock wiggled, so it tried to unlock, but it didn't work. Now, no sunglasses on at the moment either. Note that. Wiggle again, doesn't unlock. And this is the thing, right? Like if I close that again, open it back up, it just wiggled. So it's obviously thinking that I'm trying to actually log on, except I'm not logging on because the damn thing won't work. Wiggle, put my head right in front of it over here, still can't log on. And basically what normally happens about now, I'll put it here so you can see it, is I get to the point where I go, all right, this thing is driving me nuts. I'm going to have to actually log on via PIN. Come on, work, swipe to unlock. No, okay. And then here we are again, back at the PIN. And I mean, you just saw like several goes there where I've tried to actually get into the thing and it just doesn't work. Let's just give it one more go, just for good luck, just in case it does actually work. All right, so the phone here, I get into the car, I put it here, I want to figure out where I'm going to go on the map, yoink, back to PIN. Okay, back into the office. So those are the ones that sort of explicitly, continually mess things up for me. there are lots of other little nuances in terms of the way it unlocks where it just doesn't always seem to do it smoothly or when I want it to. So I'll sort of pick it up and go, I actually just try, okay, now it's unlocked, but it's actually showing me my latest updates and things. And then when I clear them, yeah, I've got to do them one by one. It's just not as intuitive as before. So in all honesty, and this is the bit where I'm really torn here, I love this in every single other way. I love the whole full screen thing in terms of actually using all the real estate. I love the fact that it is smaller than my iPhone 7 Plus, yet it's got more real estate than what that phone had. In fact, it's about the same size as an iPhone 6. This is my wife's old one that I'm recording this on at the moment. So it's fantastic for that. I do not miss the home button in any possible way in terms of the functions that it provided other than Touch ID. I don't care that I can't double click it to switch between apps. I don't care about any of the other features that I used to do with it, double click to go back to the home page, all this sort of thing. Because all of the gestures, once you learn them, and that's a little bit of a learning curve, but you learn them and everything's fine. But the Touch ID is not good. Well, let me rephrase it. The Touch ID is awesome. Face ID is not good. In fact, the reason why I eventually ended up doing this is that there was a piece here in the news, and I'll link to this in the blog post. Well, it was only a few days ago, where Phil Schiller of Apple is saying all Face ID's competitors stink. And that's why this blog post and this video is talking about the fact that Face ID stinks. Because maybe the competitors do stink, but that doesn't mean that Face ID doesn't stink either. Now, I guess the question then is, on balance, what would I do? So on balance, would I go and say today, would I go and buy an iPhone 8 Plus, for example, or would I buy a 10? And honestly, I'm really on the fence about it. I would say that if you're in an environment, particularly where you're wearing stuff like this, I would be very, very hesitant. And if I had to go out and do it again today, yeah, honestly, like I'm 50-50. I don't know, because again, I love the form factor of this, and the camera and everything is epic, etc. But it's painful. I imagine this is a sort of thing that's going to evolve pretty quickly as well. I mean, this is a first generation implementation for Apple. So I would hope that once we get to second, and particularly we often see in the industry, we get to sort of third generation and things work pretty slickly. Particularly as we get to there, I hope things turn around and this actually becomes a viable proposition. But at the moment, this has got way more problems than what Apple wants to admit. And the thing that gets me with this as well is that this is not news. Like, they wouldn't have launched this and then gone, oh, turns out it actually doesn't work very well in a lot of situations. Like, they would have realized this. But I imagine that they had made the commitment to go down the Face ID path because of killing the home button. And it's like, guys, we just got to do our best. Incidentally, as well, there is the ability to turn off the feature that requires attention. Now, let's just clarify what this means, because frankly, it doesn't make things a whole lot better, but we'll go through it anyway. You need to actually be looking at the device. So in theory, if I just point this at my face like this, and then I turn it over there, still locked yet. Pointing at my face, do the thing again. See, even that, the fact that you've got to raise it before you can, like you can touch the screen, but again, it's just not as tactile as before. Raise it up to there. I'm not looking at it. Doesn't want to log me in. I've got to look at it like this. Bang. Now we're logged in. Okay. Padlock undone. So the require attention is meant to fix scenarios like we've seen Touch ID circumvented on. So we saw stories about things like kid sneaks into parent's bedroom with an iPhone, let's say an iPhone 6, holds down sleeping parent's thumb on phone, gets into the phone, goes and buys loads of Candy Crush or something like whatever kids do now off the App Store. Now, firstly, if your kids are doing that, you've got a different problem. You've got to have a chat to your kids. But secondly, this is obviously a bit of a problem where someone not consciously wanting to unlock the device may actually do so accidentally, or someone may coerce them without their knowledge. So the whole idea of sort of requiring attention is that if your eyes are not kind of focused at it, it's not going to unlock. Now, you can turn that off, which in theory gives you a greater sort of usability posture, because now you don't have to be as engaged with the phone. So you can do things like that and it will actually unlock. The problem, of course, is that once you start going down that route, you're now starting to weaken the security because the whole attention thing is there in the first place to try and keep the thing more secure. So then you got to decide, what do I do? Do I improve the usability but weaken the security, or do I keep it default and have stronger security but then it's harder to use, which in some ways circumvents some of the security value anyway? I have tried it with require attention off. And I guess the nice thing about my lifestyle is I'm normally at home. So I don't do it when I'm traveling, but I'm normally at home. It's like, look, the worst is one of the kids is going to get the phone. And my kids don't go and buy Candy Crush. Tell you what, if they did. So I have tried this, but frankly, it hasn't improved the situation very much at all. Very, very negligibly. So I don't really think that that's an answer. So getting back to the point I was just making, first generation stuff, I'm sure that over time we will see the sensors get more sensitive. They'll have more pixels or more depth control or whatever else is going to provide more input to be able to figure out who you are. But particularly the bright light situation is really problematic. It's not just a polarized sunglasses thing, because you saw both these pairs of sunglasses both unlock the phone very reliably sitting here in an environment where I didn't need the sunglasses. But it's like bright light combined with glasses now starts to cause a real problem. So that's my wrap up of it. I've got the phone. I'm going to be sticking with the phone until there's a new one. But when we get round to I don't know if it'll be iPhone 11 or X Plus or whatever, when we get to that next generation, I'm going to have to seriously think about, do I want to replace this with another implementation of Face ID that has hopefully improved enough, or do I want to go back to the good old tactile Touch ID and actually lose a bit of screen real estate in the process? So that's it. You'll have to make up your own minds if you're buying an iPhone X, but certainly it is not all it's cracked up to be in terms of Face ID.